Close your eyes for just a moment. Imagine you're standing inside a cave, tens of thousands of years ago. Outside, the night is thick and black. A clap of thunder rolls across the sky. Lightning tears the darkness apart. And in that single instant, our earliest ancestors, the first humans who could truly wonder, lifted their eyes and asked a question that would change everything. Who is making all of this happen? That was the moment religion was born. Not in grand temples, not in golden cathedrals, but in the fear and the awe of human beings standing small before the vastness of nature. Today, I invite you to travel back through time with me. Together, we'll follow the footprints of human faith, from the very first fires flickering in a cave, all the way to soaring temples and mosques and cathedrals that reach for the heavens. This is the story of how humanity learned to believe. Let's begin at the very beginning. About 40,000 years ago, in the lands we now call Europe and Africa, our ancestors lived fragile, uncertain lives. They depended entirely on nature, animals to hunt, rivers to drink from, the sun to keep them warm. But nature was also cruel. Storms, drought, sickness, death. And here's something fascinating about us as a species. When human beings cannot control something, they try to bargain with it. So they painted great bulls onto the walls of caves, not as decoration, but as a kind of prayer, a wish for a successful hunt. They buried their dead with flowers and tools, because somewhere deep inside, they had begun to believe that death was not the end. This is our first great turning point. The moment human beings realized they were finite and began to long for something eternal. Out of fear, faith was born. Then something miraculous happened. Humans learned to farm. Picture the land between two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, in a place we call Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization in what is now Iraq. When people stopped wandering to hunt and instead planted seeds and waited for the harvest, they suddenly depended on brand new things: the rainfall, the flood, the richness of the soil. And do you see what happened? Every need in their lives gave birth to a god to match it, a god of the sun, a god of rain, a god of the earth, a god of the river. Travel west to Egypt, beside the mysterious river Nile, a river that floods every year and then retreats, leaving behind dark, fertile silt that fed an entire civilization. There, the people worshipped Osiris, the god of death and rebirth. And why? Because the Nile itself taught them a lesson, year after year. After death, there is always rebirth. The crops die and return. Perhaps people do too, and so those colossal pyramids rose into the sky, not merely tombs, but launch pads, carrying the souls of pharaohs into eternity. This is our second turning point. Farming transformed religion from scattered rituals into entire organized systems, with temples, with priests, with gods who had names and stories. Faith now had an address, a home on this earth. Now, let us fly east, to ancient India and ancient China. This is one of the strangest and most beautiful chapters in all of human history. Scholars call it the Axial Age, because almost at the very same time, in different corners of the world, human beings began asking deeper questions. No longer just, who rules the world? But, how do I live a life that truly means something? On the hot, humid plains of the Ganges River in India, a land where life bloomed fiercely, but where suffering was everywhere, in poverty, in sickness, in the cruelty of the caste system, a prince named Siddhartha walked away from his palace. He sat beneath a fig tree and he asked himself one question: why must human beings suffer? And how can we be free from it? His answer became Buddhism, a faith that did not begin with gods, but with the pain of being human. And doesn't that make perfect sense? In a land where suffering was so present, faith arose not to beg for good weather, but to find peace within the soul itself. At that very same time, over in China, in the chaos and bloodshed of the Warring States period, a teacher named Confucius asked a different question. How do we make this society peaceful and harmonious again? And so Confucianism was born, not quite a religion in the usual sense, but a philosophy of living that honored family, virtue, and harmony. Because in a time of chaos, the thing human beings craved most was order. This is our third turning point. For the first time, humanity shifted its focus from pleasing the gods to perfecting the self. It was a great revolution of the inner world. Now, let's return to the Middle East, to the dry, sun-baked lands where nomadic tribes wandered across endless deserts. Think about it for a moment. In the desert, there are no lush forests bursting with variety, no countless rivers. There's only sand, an enormous open sky, and the harsh struggle to survive. And perhaps it was exactly that stark, unified landscape that gave birth to an idea so radical it would shake the world. What? If there were only one God? A single God of all? From the Jewish people came Judaism, one of the first deeply influential monotheistic faiths. A small nation, often oppressed and exiled, found its strength in the belief in one God who watched over them, who had made a sacred covenant with them alone. Then, from that same land, about 2,000 years ago, a carpenter from Nazareth named Jesus brought a new message, a message of love, of forgiveness, of salvation offered to everyone, rich or poor, powerful or forgotten. And so Christianity was born. And here is the extraordinary part. That message spread like wildfire. Why? Because it arrived at exactly the right moment. As the vast Roman Empire longed for a faith that could comfort even its lowest, most invisible slaves, a religion that declared every single soul has worth before God, in a world drowning in inequality. That idea was irresistible. 6 centuries later, across the Arabian Peninsula, the Prophet Muhammad brought Islam, continuing that same powerful current of monotheism, with a message of complete devotion to God, to Allah, and a community built on equality and discipline. Among scattered, feuding Arabian tribes, Islam brought a unity never seen before. This is our fourth turning point, and perhaps the most world-shaking of all, the idea of one single God for all of humanity. It dissolved the boundaries between tribes, and for the very first time, it planted in the human heart the notion that all people, everywhere, are one family. And so, the great river of faith kept flowing. The world's great religions spread across the entire globe, along the Silk Road, aboard trading ships, and sometimes carried by armies. They blended, they collided, they transformed one another. Buddhism flowed from India into China, into Japan, all the way down into Vietnam. Christianity followed explorers across vast oceans. Islam stretched from West Africa all the way to Southeast Asia. Then came the Age of Enlightenment, and science stepped onto the stage. Human beings began to explain thunder with electricity and disease with invisible germs. Many questions that once only religion could answer. Now science began to answer too. But have you noticed something remarkable? Religion did not vanish, because science can answer the question, how does the world work? But it cannot answer the question our ancestors first whispered in that cave so long ago. What is the meaning of my life? What waits for me after death? And how should I live? And so here we are, my friend. From a single clap of thunder in a prehistoric night, to the temples and churches and mosques that cover our planet today. The journey of human faith is, in truth, the journey of the timeless questions that still live inside every one of our hearts. Every religion was born in a particular land, shaped by a particular way of life. The desert gave rise to the belief in one God. The fertile river gave rise to a philosophy of rising above suffering. The age of chaos gave rise to a longing for order and harmony. Faith, in the end, is a mirror, reflecting the lives of human beings in every time and every place. And perhaps Whatever faith you follow, or no faith at all of us are still walking that same journey together, still lifting our eyes to a sky full of stars, still asking the most beautiful questions a human being can ever ask. Thank you so much for listening. If this journey moved you, if it made you wonder, do subscribe to the channel and stay with us, because there are so many more stories waiting.